Welcome to the Boxing Gossip Podcast, number 84. Thank you very much to everyone who's already joined. Can see we've got a lot of the usual faces in the chat. Shout out to Lawrence, to Gary, to Brody, to Matt, to Paul, to Jared, to Bart, to Darren, to Team Groves, to John, to Delboy, to Craig, to all the usuals. If I've missed you, I'm sorry. We got 36 people watching and waiting before we even go live. So if you're one of the 36, many thanks. 17 people already hit the thumbs up button before we've even gone live. So please continue to do that throughout the course of the show, which will mean more and more people get to join. And also we've had 2 new subscribers today. So if you're one of those new 2 people, thank you for hitting subscribe. And if you haven't already subscribed, please hit that button. Big podcast today. Huge amount to discuss. This is the first real podcast of 2018 where we're going to follow the classic podcast format, because we're going to start by going to last week and talking about last week's action, Usyk Briedis. We're then going to go to the news, discuss some of the big breaking stories in the sport. Then we'll finalise with a preview and a look ahead to next week's boxing. So that's the typical format we do. We haven't been able to do that so far in 2018 just because there hasn't been the schedule. But thankfully, the schedule has hit, and it's hit big time. I'm already joined on the panel by Jay, which is excellent. I believe we're going to have more members of the panel joining. Irish Tom is likely to join. He's a bit under the weather still, so we'll have to see how long he's with us for. Suri's having internet problems, but we believe he may potentially take part in a cameo appearance. Hopefully Paul is able to join later. Haven't actually heard from Jet, but hopefully he's able to join if we're out there. So without further ado, let me bring in Jay and stop rambling on with the intros. And Jay, let's start, mate, by talking about Alexander Usyk versus Maris Briedis. Great fight.
Yeah, absolutely fabulous fight. One for the pure, well, one for the purist and one for maybe the armchair casual fan, because it was just non-stop, absolute non-stop pace. Both fighters there to put it on the line. Great atmosphere. Both had unbeaten records. Both had titles. It was just a really entertaining fight from start to finish, and really interesting, and possibly played out a little bit different than I maybe first would have thought going into the fight. It was close. It was really close and tough to score. Really tough. I've watched it again today, and it was so tough to score. I didn't sit down and score it, but you could see by the way some of the rounds you could easily split. One half to the first half to Usyk, second half to Briedis. Usyk is a very good fighter. He's very good on his feet, on his toes. He judges range quite well, usually. Not so much this time. He was getting caught a lot early rounds. First round, I think he won. Second, third, fourth, I think went to Briedis, and then Usyk, I think probably maybe he could have split the fifth. Sixth round again was very close. But Usyk, yeah, I really like him. Really good jab. Uses his jab really well. Stopped moving his head as much as he did early on. And then Briedis on the other side, he will come forward. Although they both came forward, it was one of those fights, but did come forward, tried to land those big shots, and did hurt Usyk. And it showed that Usyk can be hurt, and Usyk can be quite tested, when before possibly we thought he might have been a class above everyone else. I think there's a few more question marks over his invincibility now in that weight, but you know, a great fight for all. I know a lot of people said Briedis won. A lot of people said Usyk won. I know. I think if you said it could have gone either way, you wouldn't have really moaned. And likewise, I gave to Usyk in the end. But yeah, a really entertaining fight, Tom.
Yeah, I definitely thought Usyk won it. I thought it was close. I think I was guilty of underestimating Briedis. I think Briedis was a lot better in this fight than I expected him to be. I actually thought Usyk would outbox him with ease. I thought Briedis would win 2 or 3 rounds and that would be about it. And Usyk would sort of dance around him and completely outskill him and outclass him. And I think I was guilty of underestimating Briedis there, possibly as a result of the Mike Perez fight, if I'm honest. So for me, I think this is a case of Briedis probably overperforming against my expectations rather than Usyk. But I do think Usyk definitely won the fight. I think In the second half, Briedis became low output. He was tired. And there were several rounds where I felt Briedis was just on the ropes too much. And Usyk was just landing, quality work over and over and over again. Close fight, competitive fight, difficult fight to score. I kind of the mind 7-5 is probably about right for Usyk, really. But where do you stand, Jay? Do you think it's a case of Briedis being a bit better, like I've been referring to, or was it a case that maybe Usyk was slightly subpar?
I think there's a few factors. One factor is Briedis being at home. Big crowd, big atmosphere can always give a fighter 10% extra. Usyk, you did question him at the time, watching it, thinking, stay out of the range, move around the ring, use the space, which he does, and he did in his last fight, and does very well because, as I said, he's really good on his toes. He seemed he wanted to stand there a little bit more. He wanted to take the fight a little bit more, which probably he didn't really need to. I think with Briedis that night, there was a lot of big eye-catching shots. They fight very differently. So Usyk will use that jab and he'll sneak that uppercut in. And there's a lot of maybe shots that aren't really picked up, that can be a little bit, underhand that you can't sort of see. Whereas Briedis will come forward with those big hooks. And so that can tend to be more eye-catching, where people, obviously, as we've seen in other fights, rounds can be given for those sort of that sort of work rather than the more slight technical smaller work. Usyk will learn a lot from that. But I was a little bit disappointed with Usyk. You can see it's there. You can see everything's there. But I think I don't know whether he just allowed himself to get into that sort of fight, or that he didn't know how to deal with Briedis coming on so strong and so hard and so much pressure onto him. I don't really know. I think Usyk is good enough to be able to step out of the way and step back, because he does, as I said, he does have a really good sense of range. But at times he seemed to get in too close and get involved too much.
Totally. I totally agree. Having watched the fight, Jay, how do you think he would cope with the likes of a Gassiev if Gassiev is to get through Dorticos?
Well, this is the question, isn't it? I think it's not a question that I don't think before the Briedis fight would have really come up. But I just think after that, as I said, he has the ability. He has all the ability in the world. And that's why, a lot of us rated him so much, because for such a big guy, he moves so well, very athletic. But, going back to the fight, saying that Briedis slowed down. Now, I heard somewhere that Briedis had broken ribs, not, sometime a couple of months or whatever before the fight, he'd had rib injuries, and they're kind of saying that maybe it came up again about the 5th or 6th round. I don't know how true that is, because he did seem to really slow rapidly, like you said. Usyk, did he have a problem with his nose? Was he breathing funny because he was opening his mouth a lot? I don't know whether there was blood in the nose or whatever. So I think there's a few issues there, but I think Usyk can still, handedly go on and win this Super Series. And I think coming through that fight, he'll be supremely confident that he can win the whole thing now.
Yeah, I think he's still a favourite. I think Gassiev as a style matchup could cause him problems, especially given some of the frailties we saw in that Briedis fight. But Gassiev has a very, very challenging fight ahead this weekend. Jay, one thing that I do have a strong opinion of is Usyk at heavyweight. And this is something that I've long maintained on this channel. I really don't see Usyk having the same success at heavyweight. Number one, he had a huge size advantage over Briedis. Imagine him going into a fight with a huge size disadvantage. That's going to be a different dynamic. His power isn't quite as heavy-handed as it seemed earlier on. Again, factor that in at heavyweight. People are saying maybe he got buzzed by Briedis. You'd have to say if, guys like Wilder and Joshua hit a lot harder than Briedis probably. And I guess the other thing is that style, that sort of long-range boxer, jab and mover style. Is that style going to work against guys who are 6'6", 6'7", and have such natural range and reach advantages?
If it had been 40 years ago, it'd have been all right. I think now, just purely size, I don't think he's not going to carry the power up. I don't think he has the great power anyway. He's not going to carry the power up. So you're looking at, like, I think the sort of fighter that you could sort of compare him to in the heavyweight division is like a Huey Fury, someone who doesn't hold great power but that can move really well. But he's just not. He's just not big enough. It seems to be that there's, with like the invention of like, say, Tony Bellew and David Haye fighting at heavyweight, there seems to be a cruiserweight, a light super heavyweight, and then a super heavyweight. Do you know what I mean? There's such a big gap, and that's why people like, Tony Bellew would not fight Joshua, would not fight Wilder, would not fight Fury, because they're just mammoth, huge guys. Do you know what I mean? And the size difference would be too much. Even if he put on weight, it still wouldn't be enough for him to, you'd have to be someone very exceptional to really go up to heavyweight and dominate and to win a title.
Yeah. And I think the only alternative is if you go up with like immense power. And I know people say David Haye doesn't have immense power, but in my opinion, David Haye is a huge one-punch knockout artist. You could chuck David Haye in with any heavyweight, and at his best, he would have a definite puncher's chance. With Usyk, I don't really see that puncher's chance. Of course, he's a big guy, he hits hard, but you don't sense he's going to have the power that a single punch will change the course of the fight against 17 or 18 stone guys.
I think with David Haye, and when we talk about David Haye, we have to talk about vintage David Haye, prime David Haye as a heavyweight. He had the style that would work against bigger guys. He could bob, he can weave, he could get underneath. He had that explosive power coming from low, hitting up. He did that really well. The style that Usyk has wouldn't really, it'll work because he's a good boxer, but it won't work against the bigger guys. That's why I think David Haye's a little bit different. As you said, he did have that one punch knockout pad, but he had the style as well and the stature to work against those bigger guys, where I don't think Usyk really has. Usyk would want to dance on the outside, pop that jab, move around. As he hasn't got that power, then you look at, and you can say, Huey Fury is very similar. He wants to get on the outside, pop the jab, dance around, doesn't really have the big knockout power. But Huey Fury is a bigger guy than Usyk. I would imagine like a couple of inches or whatever. But he's a natural heavyweight, Huey Fury. So I just don't think. But the problem being is that this World Super Series is a fabulous thing. It's been fabulous for cruiserweights. It's bought, but if you did it in other divisions, would you see the top end fighters of that division fighting in this tournament? I'm not so sure. There's a lot of money at stake for the cruiserweights, and they're not going to make this sort of money without this tournament. So then the natural option is to go up to make that big money, because after this is over, Usyk will say is the champion of the tournament, is a unified possible champion of the cruiserweight. Where does he go? There's rematches with the Briedis, with Gassiev, with Dorticos, whoever. But is the same sort of money going to be there again? No, it's not. That's why they're in this tournament.
100%. And to be fair to the organisers, I think they've done a pretty exceptional job of choosing the right decisions to get just about the right quality of fighter in. As much as we'd love a World Boxing Super Series at heavyweight, it's probably just not realistic because of the financials of the game right now.
It's very clever, to be honest. It's very clever by them because, for one, everyone loves watching big guys fight. We all like watching the big guys. As you said, they're not going to get the heavyweights in there. So the next best, you're going to get cruiserweights, big guys. They know there's not a lot of money in the division, so they're going to get all the top guys. You could have gone with a super flyweight. It's not going to attract the sort of attention possibly that, again, the bigger guys are going to attract. So they've been very clever in picking this division as one of their opening acts, shall we say, for this hopefully continuous tournament.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I look ahead to next year. I'm thinking maybe featherweight, maybe light middleweight. Maybe there's options to do it, but I think they've had a really, really good start with these divisions. Jay, Briedis, very, very difficult position for him now. He's come out of this with immense credibility. His profile and his respect levels amongst the public are going to be at an all-time high. But where does he go from here? People are speculating at him maybe going up to heavyweight and fighting Manuel Charr in a rematch for a version of that title. But I can't see Charr giving him a voluntary and risking what would be a likely loss against a cruiserweight. Has he hit his earning potential and peak? I mean, he's 33. Is it kind of has this been his big opportunity that's gone missing? I guess.
I think for all the people that fail to win this tournament, this is their big opportunity, and they will all look at themselves and think, "Where do we go?" You'll be able to make the fights in the division, but as I said, the money's not going to be there like it has been this time. Even with a bigger name, because let's be honest, bar the real hardcore boxing fans, we were salivating over Briedis Usyk, and we'll be salivating over the final of the cruiserweights. But let's be honest, the casual armchair fan is not really going to be on board with Usyk and Briedis and Gassiev and Dorticos. So it's because it's that division. A lot of these fighters are going to come out of it, better off in the pocket, but going forward, really looking for those opponents. And as you said, I don't think Manuel Charr will give that up. Or I mean, Manuel Charr could get a bigger fight because he has some sort of version of a title. Then he could get a bigger fight against a more recognised heavyweight, and the heavyweight division is buzzing. There's a lot of heavyweights out there that want to make a statement that can make bigger money than a Gassiev fight. I mean, than a Briedis fight.
Spot on. Cheers, Jay. 115 people watching live. Please hit the thumbs up if you're one of them. Let's get at least half of you hitting the thumbs up to support the channel. Can see that my good friend Irish Tom has joined, so I'll bring him in. Irish, before we get started in the boxing, give us an update on you. How are you feeling?
Not very well. My sex change the operation has been giving me a lot of difficulties.
Yeah, your signal is not very well either, I'm afraid. Let's see if we can battle through. That wasn't ideal start. What about Usyk Briedis? Did you happen to watch that fight, Tom?
I did watch it. I saw only the
sorry, mate. We'll have to stop and start again, I think. Any chance you could disconnect and reconnect?
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. Yeah. I know we've got a lot of Irish Tom fans in the chat. I'm not trying to sabotage his consistent input to the conversation, but I thought it was best to stop it nice and early and hopefully restart it there, because that was fairly difficult listening with the sound quality. But we'll hopefully get him back on in just a minute. In fact, I can see he has rejoined. So, Tom, are you back with us, mate?
I am. Can you hear me?
A lot better. Lot better. That was worth the stop-start. So you're still feeling under the weather, are you?
I am. Yeah. I'm actually wasn't told I was going to be okay for the full show, but I'm actually starting to crash a bit. So I'll do a few minutes and then I'll probably have to pop out.
Okay, no worries. So I'll just run through all the topics with you in brief then, so that, appreciative of the fact you're not going to be with us all evening. So I guess first and foremost, we've just been discussing Usyk Briedis. Jay and I both had Usyk winning the fight in clearly a very competitive fight. What was your take on it?
Yeah, I think I had Usyk winning narrowly. Wouldn't complain about 7-5 for Briedis. Wouldn't complain even out as far as 8-4 for Usyk. But just a very competitive fight. I watched I saw the last 3 rounds live, and I thought it was really exciting to watch when it was live. And then I watched it the rest of it later on Sunday, and I didn't find it that exciting watching it because I knew the result. Because I don't think it was one of those barnstormers. It was just a very close competitive fight that when you're watching live, I think it lends it to being feel like a better fight than it is when you watch the results. But there was no real big shots. Maybe some people say there was. But I think there was no like, there wasn't that much drama in it, as in like there wasn't knockdowns, there wasn't guys teetering around the place. It was just a highly competitive, well fought fight. I was surprised that Usyk found Briedis that hard to do. I think some people saying that Usyk got found out. I don't think so much he got found out, but that's the first boxer that he's really taken on. If we think about, he fought Hook, he fought Glovacki. Who else did he fight? Well, actually, the South African guy he fought, the small black guy, what was his name?
So he fought two guys, I guess. So I think the chap you're referring to from South Africa is Tabiso Machunu. He also fought Michael Hunter.
Yeah. So like, but that was Michael Hunter's first big step up, and Machunu. But the Machunu, was it Machunu who fought?
Yes.
Okay. But like, he gave him a lot more problems than someone like Hook did. So I think it's obvious that I think he prefers like kind of come forward slugger types. And when somebody gives him a bit of movement, he's not as impressive. I don't see him as one of these top 10 pound for pound type guys. I just think he's pretty good guy. And the only thing is, he doesn't have much power. And he got hit quite a bit by Briedis. So I wouldn't be surprised if Gassiev comes through that, if he actually wins that fight. I think Gassiev might be able to bring very good pressure. But once again, the Super 6, brilliant or the Super 8 boxing series, super concept, best thing in boxing, gets the best fight in the best. And bring it on. You can have it in any division and it'll be good. Like, even like the waist ground of the super middleweight division, and you're not even getting probably only half of the top guys in it. It's still good, So it's a great thing, and I hope they break even and they'll bring it on again.
Absolutely. I think most of us are hoping that we have a repeat going into 2019 and we get another two divisions, because it really is making the boxing schedule very, very, very interesting at the minute, which is good. Okay, Tom, appreciate you're not going to be with us for too long. So what we'll do is we will start by going into some of the fights for next weekend and getting some predictions and thoughts from yourself ahead of those. So two big fights, one in the Super Series, the other Cruiserweight semi-final, and obviously the British Beef card. So perhaps we'll start with Gassiev versus Unier Dorticos. Is that one you've got a gut feel on?
I'm feeling it for Gassiev. I think I was looking at the odds. Does anybody know what the odds are on that?
Yes, Gassiev 4-6.
Well, there's no value in that, but
there isn't. Gassiev KO about 10-11.
Yeah, still, the other guy Dorticos is a bit of a tough guy too. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a late stoppage, but I'm feeling Gassiev. I just like that style. What's his trainer again?
Golovkin's trainer.
Yeah.
Don't tell me. I can't believe I've forgotten this.
Not fucking Abel
Sanchez.
Abel Sanchez, that's it. I really like Abel Sanchez's attacking style. I like aggressive, skillful power punching style. So I'm going to go with Gassiev on that. And I think either of them, whoever wins that semi-final, Usyk's got to go and have a hard night.
Definitely. What about the British Beef card, Tom? Specifically, Isaac versus Lawrence. You, if I recall, when we last discussed it, you were thinking Isaac.
Yeah, I am, and I don't know enough about Isaac. To be honest with you, I've only seen Isaac Chamberlain sparring, and I was really impressed with what I saw him sparring. How boxing hipster is that? I've only seen his sparring, but so I haven't seen him in a you know, in a hard competition. But I think someone with the style, with the ability to slip and the ability to counter is a type of fighter to give Okolie problems. I must say the body language and the build-up has been poor from Isaac Chamberlain. I think Okolie looks extremely confident. So I don't know. I just feel like just on kind of body language and psychology, I'm going to go for Okolie. And is this over 10 rounds?
Mate, I don't actually know. I noticed the bookmakers are doing an over 10.5 round bet, which implies it's for 12 rounds.
Okay, so if it's over 12 rounds, I think Okolie will stop him. But look, I think that Chamberlain, I think it's a live fight. That's the way I put it. It's a live fight. But I'd probably make Okolie like a 3-1 favourite. That's the way I feel. But I think, what can you get? You can get 4-6 on Okolie?
I don't know if you can still get 4-6. You can get 1-2, 4-7, but I think that's best price.
Okay, yeah. Like, I think that's... I think 4-7 is still value.
There's some disagreement in the chat. Some people saying 12 rounds, some people saying 10 rounds, more people saying 10 rounds. I've actually bet on Lawrence Okolie to win by a knockout, Tom.
Yeah, that's probably the most... I think, and I mean, just looking at the odds, what did you get?
I got 7-4, but there's 6-4 available with a lot of the major high street bookmakers.
It's come in since you got that money on.
Oh, has it?
No, I'm saying
I did it.
Come in.
No, I did it this morning.
Oh yeah, 7-4. I see it there. There's 7-4 on a few different sites. Yeah. Like that's. Let me see. That's 35%. That's saying that it's 7-4. Okay.
35, 36%.
30. Yeah, 35, 36%. I don't know. Like that's probably about. It's probably. I don't know.
I think I think he's got about a chance of stopping him.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe what percentage chance do you think Okolie wins on points?
Very low. I think that's
very low.
I think that's an awful price. The bookmaker has it at 3-1. I wouldn't want to touch that with a Bard's pole. I think if it goes the distance, you might be swayed to say Isaac.
No, but like think about it. If you're saying this guy 30, you think 50, okay, and if it's 3-1, that's 25%. So that's making the price up as like basically you think about okay, but I don't know, like I can imagine him like knocking Chamberlain down once or twice and it going 10 or 12. I think this is a Southern area title, so then it's probably going to go over 10.
It seems to be a 10-round fight according to the chat.
You know, that makes quite a big difference when you're going for these KOs. I don't know, 3-1 on points is pretty. I think that's pretty good.
I think Okolie might splatter him early, to be honest. But
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Well, I think. I don't know. Like the thing is, if it, like he's obviously getting very good sparring. Chamberlain. He's obviously no mug. He's been sparring AJ. He's been sparring out with Usyk, and he's been going out there for a reason. Usyk's been bringing him over there, so he obviously is. While he's obviously got a certain level that he's good enough to spar at the elite level. So I don't know if he's going to be fearing Okolie, but I get the impression though that Okolie's much bigger.
Yeah,
yeah. So bigger. I don't know. I think the bookies might have it fairly right.
Okay. Tom, know you're only with us for a little bit. Let me just ask you to touch on the Golovkin Canelo news, mate. I assume you're very pleased with that announcement.
To be honest with you, I know some people think I'm really negative all the time about these things, but I'm not up for that fight now. I just like when somebody gets rolled in a thing. It's like I don't really want to see it again. You just feel like a sucker watching that fight again the second time. I know it'll come around and I'll be well up for it probably, but right now I'm not buzzing for that fight. I'm telling you, I'm buzzing a lot more for George Groves and Chris Eubank. I'm probably buzzing more for AJ versus Joseph Parker. You know, I just think that you know, when a guy gets rolled like that, and is he going to get rolled the second time? You know, imagine it's a close fight. Imagine it's a closer fight this time. Say it's like it should be a draw, and then they ride Golovkin, and he loses 12-0 on 2 judges' scorecards. You know, it's hard to look forward to it. All I hope is that Golovkin actually commits to his left hook and goes for the knockout. But, you know, I think Golovkin is likely to have slid more again. And I don't know. I would love him. I would love Golovkin to splatter my fellow ginger all over the place. And I love to stop him. It would be the end of Golden Boy. And they fucking deserve it for all their unbelievable corruption in those Canelo fights. So I'm praying and hoping that Golovkin splatters him from one end of the ring to the other. Then Canelo will have to leave. He'll have to leave Mexico in shame, and you have to go under a witness protection scheme in the west of Ireland.
Who knows? Wonders would never cease. But yeah, surely Golovkin's got to go for the KO this time because you know, after all the controversy last time, he's going to be very minded that he doesn't want to leave it in the hands of the judges. Tom, have you got anything more for us, mate? Anything else you want to throw in?
Anything at all. The Amir Khan press conference is a fucking joke. Oh my god! I must say, your man Lo Greco, he's a good talker, man. He is a proper good talker. But like, you know that it was cringeworthy. You know, like the amount of fake beef in these things now is just ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. And you know, Amir Khan, he's you know, he's a nice guy, but he's so dumb. Amir is so dumb. You know, they should. Amir is so dumb. He probably has suffering from like brain damage before he ever got into boxing. You know, and he's so rileable. I would not be surprised. I know this is kind of absurd, but I wouldn't be surprised if that actually is a good fight. And I wouldn't be surprised if, lo and behold, Amir got fucking KO'd.
I'll say the same thing. Like, I want to know what the price on Le Greco is, because if you can get, in fact, I'm just looking at it now. So Le Greco is available at 10-1, and I'm just seeing if there's a method of victory market.
Oh man.
Okay, so the best there's only one of the bookies have it up, but Le Greco by KO at 14-1. Like, do you know what? If I could find a 15-1, 20-1 on that, you'd have that as a bit of a long shot, wouldn't you?
I would. And you know, like, we've seen James DeGale like getting, you know, landing on his arse from your man Truax. But you know, Amir Khan is probably more ripe for a big fall. You know, he's probably. Do you know what? I think maybe Le Greco won't be the guy to do it, but I wouldn't be surprised in the next 2 or 3 fights, in these tune-up fights that are happening, Khan will get beaten, and that'll be the end of him.
Yeah. It's not a fight without risk. This Khan is obviously a substantial favourite, but it is not a fight without risk. But yeah,
and Le Greco Did Le Greco go the distance with Sean Porter?
Yes.
You know, like, so he's obviously of a good level, because in most people, you know, you have to be tough. And most people, you know, just get plowed out of it by Sean Porter. You know, you have to be actually decent. So, like, I think if he's able to go now, he may be in a lot worse shape. But if he's able to go the distance with Sean Porter, there's a good chance he'll take whatever Amir has got to throw at him. And he only has to catch Amir once.
He's got a lot of time to prepare for this fight as well. I mean, that Errol Spence fight, I think he got brought in 2 or 3 days before for that fight. Now he's got 10 weeks. It must. So that's the big factor as well.
He is very overweight, though, man.
He did look overweight. Yeah,
this is a fat camp. He looks like he might have half retired. This is going to be fat camp. So they're probably picking wisely. But with Amir Khan, you just don't know. That's why I love Amir Khan. You just don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Always one hell of a ride with Amir, certainly. Wicked. All right, Tom. Appreciate you making the cameo from your deathbed.
Yep. Hopefully next week I'll be on for a full show. It's been too long.
Yeah. Look forward to it, mate. Schedule's starting to heat up as well. Cheers, Tom. All the best, mate.
All right. See you, boys.
Cheers, Tom. Thanks to Iris for making a guest appearance. We're up to 130 of you watching live. Please smash that thumbs up button if you haven't done already. Jay, let me bring you back in, mate, and let's start with probably the biggest news topic of the week, which is this Canelo Golovkin fight. Iris, Tom was a little bit underwhelmed by the announcement there. What's your take on it?
Well, we've been expecting it, haven't we? It was going to happen. It's just when is the issue. It'll be nice to get it all finally cleared up, to find out who is the best out of the pair of them. I'm in agreement with Tom that I hope Canelo gets sparked within so many rounds because everything is right in everything that Golden Boy do is currently based around Canelo. He's their major lifeline, their major pay-per-view seller, their major ticket seller, their star. But it'll be interesting to see. Last time I gave it to Golovkin, and hopefully he will want to do it right and do it outright and really make the statement that he is the best middleweight in the world.
Definitely. What's your take? I mean, for me, I think there'll probably be someone who remembers my own post-fight videos better than me and will call me out for getting this wrong. But I think I scored it a draw first time round.
Yeah.
Do you have a take on this idea that Golovkin is a fighter who is slipping and will therefore, continue to slip?
I remember we had this very same discussion on the podcast after the fight, and I am of the opinion that this is the first time Golovkin had fought an elite fighter. That's what Canelo is. He's an elite fighter in the prime of his game. And I think, up until then, Golovkin had fought fighters that, for one, partly were scared of him, with partly this aura of him having this super badass power that can knock people out in a single punch and relentless. He fought a lot, your Macklin, your Martin Murray, Lemieux, and then he fought Danny Jacobs. Now, Danny Jacobs is a very good fighter, very tricky fighter, moves well, good quick hands, and did really, really, really well in that fight. And I think that made people go, well, hold on a minute, he's not as, this insatiable knockout artist that maybe we thought he was, which put questions on him straight away. And then he fought Canelo, who is a very, 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 very good fighter. And I don't think it's so much as slipping. Maybe he has slipped a little bit, a step, but not enough to say that he's, really at the bottom end of his game. So I just think, as I said, the first time he come up against a very, very, very good fighter.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I think this is one of the reasons that I was, somewhat late to the Triple G bandwagon, is because the level of opposition wasn't in line with the hype he was getting for so long. And, now he has stepped up to fight the elite.
Everybody that's his name on YouTube.
Ever so slightly dropped. Is that Paul joining there? Hello, Paul.
Paul, shut up. What's going on?
Oh, sorry. I thought I was muted. Sorry.
I'll bring you in just a second. Jay, I made a bit of a, I didn't send Paul a link, which isn't ideal. So he's been waiting to get on all this time. So yeah, my apologies in advance to Paula. But I completely agree with you there, Jay.
It's still exciting though. We still want to see it. There's still two of the top fighters in the world going at it, you know. So for me, I'm excited about it. I'm not like Tom in the sense that you know I'm underwhelmed by it. I want to see it again. The first fight was a great fight. It was a fantastic fight. It was a really good fight, a good mixture of styles. You know, we all wanted to see whether Golovkin's power would win the day, or Canelo's technical ability and Canelo's sometimes obvious faults with his being a little bit flat-footed, and could Golovkin cut him, you know, cut the ring off well enough to hold Canelo down and do the damage that he wanted to do. So for me, yeah, I want to see that fight again. You know, I'd watch that fight every day.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, mate. It's still the number 1 and number 2 in the division, and those are the fights we want to encourage. Seeing as Irish Tom brought it up, let me also ask you about this, Khan versus Phil Greco situation. In the week, we have the British beef card. Is this fake beef? You know, Amir Khan's always come across as a hot-headed guy, but a guy who's never had, you know, disciplinary issues. And, you know, next thing you know, he's sitting next to Eddie Hearn and starts throwing things.
100% fake beef, 100%. And this is why now I feel a bit sorry for Ohara Davies. And when you watch that interview with Ohara Davies he did with IFL and said basically he got thrown under the bus by everyone. And I never was an Ohara Davies fan, but I see it now. You can just see it. He was smiling, almost grinning when he threw that water. You know, there was no. It wasn't like Dillian White and Chisora where tensions were high. You could see it, and you could see the anger and the distaste in their face. That was just ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous, and you can see because Dillian White put on Twitter a little video of what he'd taken off BBC News or whatever. And they're talking about the fight. And the funny thing is, I know everyone's seen it, but Eddie Hearn jumps up in the middle and they go, look at the size of the bouncer in the middle of them. And they called Eddie Hearn the bouncer and thought he was security, basically, which was wicked. But you could see it's just manufactured. Connor's got this thing of I'm a celebrity. Now Eddie Hearn's saying, right, we need to build this hype. We need to get it going. We need to get your name back out there. We can just see it. Greco has obviously been told, give him a nudge, give him a little bit of a push. You know, make this sort of work, because Greco talks well, talks a lot of shit, bit stupid, but he's good. I quite like him. He's quite entertaining. But when Amir Khan throws that water, there's a grin on his face. You know, it was like at school. You know, that's what it was like. Let's just kick this off and see what attention we get. And then people jumping in, and it was complete bullshit, and it's a bit sad. I don't mind beef. I like beef. We all like to see it in a press conference, but when it's so obviously manufactured, it's a bit sad, really. It's sad that we have to resort to something like that, because Amir Khan against the Greco, it's a decent fight. You know, Khan's been out for a couple of years. Greco's been out for a while. We know that Khan is susceptible to being knocked the fuck out. So, you know, for me, I would always watch Amir Khan. You don't need to do that. And Amir Khan's never done that in the past. Why all of a sudden has he become this person that's kicking off at press conferences? He's never done it before. It's out of character. So, yeah, it's ridiculous. And he didn't even say anything too bad, really. He was only saying what Amir Khan had said on a tweet. You know, but then he has to make a reason for it by saying, well, it's personal. And you've got Eddie Hearn in an interview afterwards saying, well, you know, he took it to a place that it shouldn't have been taken to. And, you know, it's just fucking bollocks. Absolute bollocks.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I wonder if it's because they're on the same night as Frampton and they want to. That's
another thing. That's the first thing that jumps in your head, isn't it? That because you got Frampton on there, we've got to do something. You know, rather than taking a huge truck round Belfast and round London saying, you know, Eddie Hearn's a wanker. You know, that's or Frank Warren's a wanker. That's the only way you're going to get any sort of publicity to outdo each other, and it's sad that it's come to that.
Totally agree, mate. Totally agree. I love the beef, the hype, the trash talk, the build up, however you want to phrase it. But when it's slightly uncomfortable is when it is so, so unlike that fighter. I remember the one that I really struggled with was when there was beef between Tommy Coyle and Luke Campbell. Two blokes who are obviously nice blokes. They were obviously clearly quite good friends as well. And then next thing you knew, at the drop of a hat, there was real animosity between the two. Almost the same with Callum Smith and Rocky Fielding, and it just didn't sit well. It wasn't natural, like when Dillian White does it, or like when, Billy Joe Saunders does it or something. And you just wonder if it's the same here.
The prime example would be Martin Murray kicking off now with Billy Joe Saunders.
Yes.
Because Martin Murray is such a genuinely down-to-earth, nice, comes across a really nice guy. He's not a loudmouth. He doesn't call people out on social media. So if he started doing it instantly, you would just go, "What are you doing, Martin? That's not you." And that's the same with Amir Khan. Amir Khan's never done that. He's maybe said a few words in press conferences, and beef and this sort of build-up has been happening for years and years. Decades. This has been happening, and when it's real now. We know when it's real. We're not stupid, and they just must start to think that we're stupid. And it's sad, as I said, that we have to build fights through these methods, and not just through excitement of the actual fight.
Spot on, mate. Spot on. Let me bring Paul in. Paul, are you there, mate?
I am, mate. Apologies for my disruption earlier. I didn't know the mic was. I thought the mic was muted, so yeah. Apologies.
No worries at all, mate. My apologies for not sending you a link. There's several people in the chat saying I did it on purpose, but I assure you I did not.
I know you didn't. I know. I see all your tweets earlier and stuff, so I appreciate that. All good.
Yeah, absolutely. So your boxing channel has gone live today, Paul?
Yeah, we went live. Yeah. That's what I meant. Like you retweeted it and stuff, didn't you?
Yeah.
So the way you, oh no, I'll say that to you afterwards. I just remembered that we're actually live.
So to everyone watching, please do check out Paul's channel and new video and subscribe to that. I've put a link to it on my Facebook and my Twitter, and it's Abstract Boxing and Stuff. So full words, Abstract, ABZ, TRACT, Boxing and Stuff. And there's going to be some more content on there. So go and check that good stuff out, definitely. Paul, did you watch, let's start by looking back to last week. Did you watch the Usyk Briedis one?
Yeah. Can you hear me all right? Because we've got problems with the levels, haven't we?
I've maxed you up at my end, which is making it a little bit better. It is possibly on the quieter side, but it's very it's not a deal breaker from my end.
All right, cool. Someone in the chat can let me know as well. I'll try and stay as close to the mic as I can as well. Usyk Briedis. It was. I thought it was quite a decent fight. Like a lot of people are kind of like, I don't know, saying that the performances were lackluster. This is the 1 and 2 in the division, man. I thought this. I don't know who thought this wasn't going to be a competitive fight. Briedis is a handful,
I thought Usyk was going to school him. I was very surprised.
I thought Usyk could win. I don't know what everybody else thought. Unfortunately didn't catch the start of the podcast.
I think we all picked Usyk to win. I don't think anyone picked Briedis, but I for one thought it might be quite an easy night's work for him.
I mean, I wondered how was Irish on at the start of the podcast or whatever. I wonder how the guys had it, like because there's been a bit of controversy, hasn't there? Like Hatman obviously made the video saying like Briedis won it really clearly. It was a robbery, and then he made another video saying, I've watched it again. I was wrong. It wasn't a robbery. I mean, for me, I thought Usyk won the fight, but I did think it was a close fight. You know how I feel about this. It's like if a fight's close, especially with rounds, like a lot of those rounds were, like he only won by like a couple of punches in some of those rounds for me. He applied a lot more pressure than Briedis, and Briedis just seemed to tire. I mean, Briedis started really well, but he seemed to run out of gas pretty quickly for me. Do you know what I mean? But decent fight. I think Usyk will win this tournament now. I think Gassiev beats Dorticos quite easily. I've been looking at Dorticos in this sort of like week, sort of like, you know, looking ahead to this other semi-final, and I've got to say I'm not impressed with Dorticos. I'm just not. I think Gassiev's a level or two above Dorticos, to be completely honest. I think he'll win that quite easily. I see that as more of a sort of like definite win than I did Usyk Briedis.
Really?
I think there's a bigger gap between Gassiev and Dorticos, to be honest.
Then for me, I kind of view Dorticos as a bit more of an unproven commodity at this point, because we've kind of not seen very much of him. A lot of his wins have been such early stoppages. Paul, do we have you for the rest of the day today, or for the rest of the pod, or are you just cameoing tonight?
Possibly not. But I'll stay as long as I can.
Okay. We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you for next week's fights then. So if you've got to jump off, just ping me 5 minutes before, and I'll make sure I bring you in. Let me ask you. We've been discussing two bits of news as well. The first bit, we've been discussing Golovkin, Canelo, 2 being confirmed. Irish Tom was a bit underwhelmed. Myself and Jay quite excited for that. We've also been discussing the Amir Khan Le Greco press conference, and the idea of fake beef in boxing, if you like.
Yeah. What was the first thing you said? The
Canelo Golovkin announcement.
Oh, because I kind of tuned out because it sounded like you said, "Oh, I'll come back to you." I didn't know if you were gonna. Yeah, I mean, Canelo Golovkin. Just really happy it's been made. Kind of got to give Canelo a bit of credit here, because he didn't have to take this fight. Like it wasn't. There was no Triple G had no rematch clause, and so it's a voluntary. Which might go some way towards restoring Canelo's sort of pride in the sport of boxing a little bit, after the whole, dumping the bout and pretty much gifting it to Triple G, a year or so ago. I think he has to get a little bit of credit for that. I mean, like you guys know, I thought Triple G won the first fight by quite a margin. I thought some of the scorecards were just ridiculous. But at the same time, I kind of thought that some of Triple G's lackluster performances, like the Jacobs fight and whatnot, were really down to like Jacobs' size and then other factors with, in the Cal Brook fight and whatnot. But I've kind of rewatched a few of Gennadi's fights again recently, and he is definitely slowing. That's definitely part of what's going on, and that could be the difference in this fight. I still will be picking him to win, for the simple fact that I just think his output is too good. Canelo is talking about stopping him. There's no way Canelo's going to stop Gennady Golovkin. There's just no fucking way. There's absolutely no way. The man has a granite chin, an absolutely granite chin. I've seen him walk through punches from guys that hit a lot harder than Canelo. For me, Canelo's not a puncher, and I don't think he's a puncher at middleweight for sure. But I'm glad for the fight. I'm happy that it happened. Khan Le Greco, I don't know how serious that beef is. I got to admit, I don't know much about Phil Le Greco. I see him get pummeled by Errol Spence. I think that's about the only time I've seen him fight. He was apparently saying that he only had, I don't know whether he said 24-hour notice or something, or a week's notice or something. He didn't have a lot of notice for that fight, which I don't know. I mean, fighters always tend to say that, don't they, when they get the shit beat out of them, I did think, I've heard what you guys said about, it's out of character for Khan to do that. It was a bit of a sort of like, I mean, all he really did was throw water in his face. It's a little bit of a like, I don't know, everything. and if there's any Khan fans in the chat, I really apologize. But he does everything in a little bit of a bitch way. Like, you know, like if you think Chisora, like the chairs and, you know, like normally when it goes off at press conferences, it goes off. Do you know what I mean? Like David Hay banging Tony Bellew and stuff. And Amir Khan just picks up a glass of water and throws it in his face. It's the sort of thing your missus does at the fucking restaurant, innit? When you pissed her off, you've like looked at the wrong woman or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I think he kind of deserved it. If you're going to start saying, what was it he said? You know, like he's had a couple of losses since the Canelo fight. I mean, it was quite witty, but come on, you can't sit in a press conference and start talking about a man's wife, like, and then like start bringing the whole tweet and an AJ thing into it and not expect any kind of a reaction. I know it's an unusual reaction for Khan, but I don't know if anybody has sort of like touched a nerve like that with him in the press conference before. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's perhaps understandable that he reacted the way he did. Do you know what I mean?
I hear you, but to be honest, if you're someone in the public eye, especially someone who is involved in boxing, if you start tweeting about your wife in that manner, such a big following, you kind of have to assume it's going to come up over and over and over again.
Yeah. It's a good point. My girl was in the background making food, and she just said, "You got to expect that." And yeah, it's kind of right. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think he was expecting him to go there because people don't usually get quite that personal in press conferences. But like you say, Khan's his own worst enemy, isn't he? Like, if you're going to sit there and tweet, let's not forget, these tweets didn't just come out. It's not like somebody else tweeted and what was going on got exposed. He like exposed himself.
This is exactly it. This is exactly
it. His career is just becoming a bit of a circus, isn't it? Like, you know, the whole, I don't know. I was a really big fan of Khan when he was coming up. Do you know what I mean? As I'm sure everybody here was. His career, I don't know. The Greco was making was saying like, people almost saying he should retire or whatever, which I thought was a bit of a weird angle to come from. What's Khan, 30, 31?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird angle to come from, I thought.
Yeah, I think it's odd. If I was Phil Greco and I were to beat Amir Khan, I'd want to be saying I beat a top world-class fighter, you know, not someone who should be retiring.
Exactly.
But he's obviously just trying to get in his head, I guess.
Yeah. He wanted to sell the fight, and I think, look, there's something to be said for turning up, being a bit unknown, and just like going balls to the wall in the press conference. You know what I mean? It's like, I guess there's more people talking about Phil Greco today than there was a week ago. So, to that extent, he's done himself no harm, has he? I don't think.
No, absolutely. All publicity is good publicity sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, Khan seemed to be suggesting, I saw some of the interviews with him afterwards, and he was like, he really shouldn't have done that. He should have been trying to endear himself to the fans and whatnot. Come on, like, let's have it right. Khan's an English guy. They were always going to be on Khan's side unless you hate Khan, in which case you're already going to be decided the other way. Do you know what I mean? He's not sort of like winning or losing any fans based on talking about a tweet, you know, that's for sure. He's just kind of made the fight a little bit bigger. I don't know if he's made it loads bigger, but kind of made it a little bit bigger in some people's eyes, probably. You know,
definitely.
Fair play.
Definitely. All right, cheers for that, Paul, mate. Thank you. I can see Jet has joined, actually. Let me see if I can bring Jet in. Are you there, mate? Jet. Hello. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Still slightly ill, but yeah, just on the mend, mate. Can't stay for too long.
Good stuff. Is it just it's just a cameo, is it?
Yeah, it's gonna have to be, mate. Unfortunately, it's just this illness has kind of put me.
Yeah. No problem at all. No problem at all. Let me. I'll just ask you 3 or 4 things in quick order, then, Jet, and let you get off, mate. But do appreciate you joining in. Usyk Briedis, how did you score that?
Yeah, I scored it 7-5 to Usyk. I thought, Briedis was landing some really, really clean, crisp shots, but at certain times I felt like, he was getting backed up a bit easy, even though he was throwing a lot of the power punches. I thought, he led with a lot of power punches, and I thought Usyk kind of done well to the body. He done well with the jab at times, and probably just threw. He had a very good work rate, actually, to be fair, for the amount of punches. He's thrown so many punches, and didn't think he would throw that many. And, I thought it was a tighter fight than I thought he would make a lot easier work of Briedis. But, Briedis, he done very well and showed he's definitely got something left at the top level. Only concern with him is, I think he's 33 or something like that.
Yeah, 33, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know how much time he's got after the World Boxing Super Series ends. He'll be another 6 months to a year older if he gets another fight. But hopefully he stays in the mix and gets a big title. But, yeah, Usyk, I had just shading it. Good, really, really, really good fight, though.
Definitely. Does Usyk's stock rise or fall in your mind after that performance? He perhaps looked beatable for the first time in his career.
Yeah, I'd say it slightly dropped, but not significantly, to the extent that I think, in the cruiserweight division will think, okay, he's any easier to beat. I think Briedis is a top level fighter, regardless of some of us writing him off, including me. But Briedis is obviously a top level fighter. He's knocked out some heavyweights, let alone cruiserweights, and I guess we've got to consider that, Briedis is a top guy in his weight division, and he gave him, something different that Usyk hasn't had in his career. Sherry, I know, loves Glowacki, but he got absolutely schooled by Usyk. He had nothing going forward for him. Marco Huck was past his prime. And obviously, Briedis was a bit fresher, a bit hungrier, maybe a bit smarter and cuter than those two. So, you got to give Briedis some serious credit. I think, obviously, stock does slightly fall. I know people were talking about him moving to heavyweight, fighting Joshua, fighting Parker, those sort of guys. I think he would match up well against Parker, but Joshua, I think, maybe Wilder, those guys would be a lot tougher ask. I think he's, 6'4", 6'3", or something like that. So I do think the height difference does play a part. And, bigger punches, guys can take bigger blows at heavyweight. So, I'd say if he's got the if his promoters handle him right, then an eventual move to heavyweight will kind of pop up, but not at this moment in time, I don't think.
I hear you, Jet. Well, seeing as it's more of a cameo, we'll fast forward to next week's boxing. 2 very, very good fights for me. Let's hear your take on the British beef fight. Lawrence Okolie versus Isaac Chamberlain. What's your gut feel on this one?
Yeah, I'm actually going to the fight. So
nice one.
1 second, mate. 1 second. Sorry.
No worries.
Well, that's a perfect segue. I was going to come in and then I thought I won't cut Jet off, but just while he's busy on something. I just wanted to say that about Usyk going up to heavyweight. I kind of disagree with that. If you look at guys like David Haye, look at Evander Holyfield, these were not guys that were tall. Guys move up in weight all the time. And I think Usyk's a lump at cruiserweight. Like, he might be the biggest cruiserweight. I mean, he's a big cruiserweight, and I think if a guy like Evander Holyfield can move up, a guy like David Haye can move up, how many cruiserweights have moved up to heavyweight? A guy like Roy Jones can go up, start off at wherever, middleweight or wherever he started, super middleweight, and go up. I think definitely Usyk can move up to heavyweight and be competitive at heavyweight. Whether he'd beat Joshua, whether he'd be able to take the power of a Joshua or a Wilder is another matter. But I think it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Usyk could move up to heavyweight and just outbox somebody like Joshua. Just use movement and stuff, because he, as far as footwork goes, I don't think there's anybody with better footwork in that sort of, like, in those top sort of like two divisions. I don't think there's a better footwork to be found in the cruiserweight division or the heavyweight division for sure.
The problem I have, Paul, and Jay and I were discussing this earlier, is the guys you've mentioned, like David Haye, Evander Holyfield, they're very, very different styles. For me, Usyk's style is so dependent on range and, you know, boxing from distance. And I wonder if it will be a lot harder to implement that sort of style against the much bigger guys. He is a big guy. You know, he's 6'3", 14.5 stone. He's a big man. But I do believe he'd look very small next to like a Fury or a Wilder or a Joshua or a Klitschko. And I just wonder, can you stand off a much bigger man like that and throw shots from long range and try and jab against someone who's so much bigger and so much rangier than you? I think it's a bad style matchup for him.
I think
he matched.
Go
on, Paul.
Sorry, Jet. I agree to a certain extent. I think Usyk. I mean, if he was to stand next to somebody like Joseph Parker,
I think he matches well against Parker. That's what I was going to say, Paul.
Yeah,
he matches very well against.
Definitely, yeah. But look, we're just about to see AJ versus Parker. So for me, if that fight's competitive, then. Which I do think it will be competitive. I don't think AJ is just going to blow Joseph Parker out. I'll say that straight away. I don't think he will.
I don't. Do you know, sorry, Paul. What I think though, I don't think it's so much the height; it's the size, the carry. Usyk could have to put on a serious amount of weight, and can he be as mobile or as effective when he's having to put on so many pounds?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, that remains to be seen with anybody that moves up in any division. But I definitely think that he's got the frame to be able to carry it off at heavyweight. He's a big guy. I don't think it's. I mean, it's not as far fetched as maybe, I don't know, Manny Pacquiao moving up to welterweight or 154 and beating the shit out of Canelo or Margarito. I mean,
I don't know. I think it is because the jump it's not such a. It's a massive jump. It's a massive jump in weight, and what Usyk relies on is being on his toes. You know, dancing around that ring, making the move, using the movement, using the full space. That's that, and using his jab. That's Usyk's game. And I just don't think with that extra bulk, that extra size, he would be able to do that.
Well, I mean, Tyson Fury seems to pull it off at 6 foot and however much. You know, I don't think.
Yeah, Tyson Fury's a natural heavyweight.
Yeah.
Not a natural heavyweight.
No, but I mean,
as I said to Tom earlier, the only really person I could really like equate him to is Hughie Fury. But even Hughie Fury's a big guy and he's a natural heavyweight.
Yeah, and Hughie Fury's taller than him. I mean, like, all your points are valid. I think it could quite easily, you know, I can quite easily see him moving up and it being a problem. But my point is, I think it could be the other way. And I just think, you know, sometimes the slightly less size means you're slightly quicker. And somebody that's as well schooled as Usyk, you know, I think it's entirely plausible that he could move up and really struggle, but I think it's entirely plausible as well that he could move up and do really well. I think if Joseph Parker can win a world title at heavyweight, I don't see any reason why Usyk can't. Usyk's a better fighter than Joseph Parker. He might not be as powerful as Joseph Parker or as naturally heavy set as Joseph Parker, but as far as boxing skill goes, as far as footwork goes, Usyk's level was above Joseph Parker for me. I mean, he cuts off the ring a hell of a lot better than Parker's. Footwork's a hell of a lot better than Parker's.
The difference being, though, Paul, Joseph Parker took a title when those titles were raining down for everyone. There's the difference.
He did beat Andy Ruiz as well. And, I mean, Andy Ruiz is like... He's okay and he's deceptively quick, but let's be honest, he's a fat fuck.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, everyone picked up those titles. Now we could possibly see by the end of the year one unified champion, possibly Anthony Joshua, and I would not in a million years see Usyk beating Anthony Joshua. I'm afraid I could see you understand the point about the movement, but you imagine Anthony Joshua connecting with Usyk.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean,
because if Anthony Joshua was unified champion and Parker was challenging for a title, we wouldn't be looking at Parker thinking he's going to be a world champion. I think it's circumstance that got Parker into that world title belt, purely down to obviously Tyson Fury.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think of the current crop of heavyweights, Parker's certainly like up there. It's not like he's like just top 30 or something, and he just managed to stumble upon a belt. But I see.
But he did though, Paul. He did stumble upon a belt, really.
Well,
like Joshua stumbled upon a belt, and like Wilder stumbled upon a belt. They were freed up, but by Tyson Fury.
Wilder's wasn't.
Okay.
Wilder beat Wilder.
Okay.
Wilder's came off Stavern, didn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean Stavern. Well, there you go. That's not a great heavyweight, is it? Right there, really. Is he a top 10 heavyweight?
No, not now. He ain't. No.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if say if Tyson Fury had been unified champion, would Parker be a world champion?
No, of course not, and neither would AJ. But I'm saying, like, as the heavyweight landscape stands right now, if you look at who's left when the dust has settled, certainly without Tyson being active, you have to look across that landscape and say Parker's definitely top 10. For me, probably top 5. I mean, like, and so therefore he's in the running, even though he's not great. I don't think it's that strong an era for heavyweights. People start talking about, the heavyweight era's back and this, that, and the other. Really, only because of that one fight, the AJ Klitschko fight, people start getting excited about things again. But as far as this era of heavyweights, I don't think it's particularly that strong. And
let me ask you this: if Usyk wins the Super Series, steps up to heavyweight, puts on 40, 50, 60 pounds, and fought Hughie Fury, who would win that?
I don't think Usyk would put on that much.
Well, okay, well, not forget what. If he steps up to heavyweight and fought Hughie Fury, who would win? And I'll ask that to everyone.
Hughie Fury.
I'd say Hughie Fury, but I wouldn't be picking him confidently. I mean, you guys know I don't bet unless I'm absolutely certain that who I'm betting on is going to win. I wouldn't be putting money on it.
And then also you have to look at what Briedis did to Usyk. Briedis put on a good performance. Now, if you replace Briedis with Parker in that fight,
but Briedis is a completely different fighter to Hughie Fury. Can't compare them.
No, I'm not. But what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is, if you're looking at the relevance of Parker, you look at what Fury did with Parker, what Parker did to Fury, and what Parker and Briedis would be in comparison, and then bringing Usyk into the conversation.
Getting a bit complicated now, isn't it?
No, but you see what I mean? You're saying that Usyk could stand with Parker. I'm not so sure. I think maybe you're looking at maybe stature size, like height wise. But I think there's a whole different game when you get hit on the chin by a heavyweight than when you get hit on the chin by Briedis. You understand? And he got caught. Briedis caught him.
Yeah, but he never rocked him or anything. I mean,
but he caught him. But if
I could understand your point, but he did.
If Joseph Parker catches him, what do you think happens?
I think if Joseph Parker, I think if anybody at that weight catches each other, like they're probably gonna wobble you or drop you. You know, so that's a given. Like, I think if Joseph Parker catches any of the heavyweight clean, he's probably gonna knock him out. He's got power.
But I'm not even saying clean. I'm even catching him a few times. Do you know what I mean? I just think that the step up. I don't see Usyk as the heavyweight or a contender as a heavyweight at all. I think he's got the ability, but I just don't think physically he could match up to those guys.
Let me ask you this then, Jay. A few weeks ago or a few months ago or whatever, I can't remember whether you were actually on the podcast by then, but I think you were, when people were talking about Andre Ward moving up to heavyweight.
No chance. No chance.
Okay, well, I'm glad you said that. Because
controversial. I give Andre Ward a better chance than Usyk.
Although, Andre Ward is a better fighter than Usyk, let's be honest.
Not only that, but also my whole point relates to styles. Usyk's style is going to be to stand off a bigger guy, a heavier guy, a harder hitting guy. It's going to be to stand off him at distance, and trade with him from range. Ward's style is going to be to avoid, to spoil, to get on the inside. And we've got a generation of fighters at the top who can't or don't have the proven history of fighting on the inside. you know, and dealing with that sort of style that Ward's going to bring. My issue is that Usyk is just all wrong stylistically to be taking on guys who are that much bigger than him.
I agree it would be difficult for him, but to say Ward would have more of a chance, I think is... I
would give Ward a better chance of beating Wilder than I would give Usyk.
Oh no, I wouldn't. I mean, just the sheer size. We have weights for a reason. Just the sheer size difference, and the amount of power Wilder's got. I can't see that at all. But anyway, I mean, look, we're getting way off topic here, and it's all elementary. It's all academic anyway.
Let me see if I can bring Jet back in, because I think he's going to have to jump off. Jet, we rather swamped you there, I'm afraid, mate.
I hijacked that. I apologise.
Yeah. The last time you ever say, "Give me a minute," let me just shoot ahead to next week, Jet, and ask you for your predictions for the two big fights next week.
Yeah, so I'm going to the Okolie versus Chamberlain fight. Looking forward to it. I think Chamberlain will probably win that fight. I know loads of people are actually picking Okolie by late stoppage, but I can't see it. I think Chamberlain's well schooled. The thing I think Okolie has going for him is probably the eye-catching punches, because he's a bit of a harder. Well, he's a harder puncher by his record and that sort of stuff. But Chamberlain will make it very awkward. He's had top-class sparring with Usyk, Mateusz Masternak as well. So he's had really, really good sparring, elite sparring. Okolie is very raw for me. And as our good friend Ultra Tech says, he's an accident waiting to happen. And I think the accident waiting to happen is not going to happen against Chamberlain, but I think Chamberlain's thoroughly going to beat him, you know, give him a bit of a boxing lesson. What was the other fight?
Dorticos versus Gassiev.
Yeah, I'm hoping I actually get home in time. I doubt I probably will. Really good fight. Two undefeated knockout artists. I'm gonna lean to Gassiev in that fight, but I think Dorticos is a very, very, very live underdog, and you know, either one of them could KO each other. I do think the final, you know, Usyk will win the final against either one of the guys, but you know, if it's Gassiev, I think he might give him 1-2 more problems.
Okay. No, that's good, Jet. Thank you for coming on, mate. I appreciate you battling through it when you're under the weather. Hopefully you feel better, mate, and hopefully you have a great weekend with your attendance at the O2.
Thank you, mate. I'm gonna try. Hopefully I'll be on fully next week, and yeah, I'll let you know how the event at the O2 goes as well.
Definitely, mate. Be keen to hear about that. I'll catch you soon, Jet. All the best.
Take care, boys. Cheers. Bye.
Fantastic. So we do appreciate Jet and Irish Tom showing huge dedication, calling in and making appearances despite ill health. So thank you very much for that, guys. Paul, Jay, did you guys want to continue the Usyk conversation, or do you think we've done that one to death?
It's done.
It's done.
Rip the ass clean out of it. Move on.
Fantastic. Let me ask you guys about some more beef. Selby versus Warrington. It's been announced at Elland Road. What did you make of the press conference and build up to that? I've got to say, I thought Selby looked heavy, very heavy. And I think Warrington in the press conference said the featherweight champion of the world's just turned up looking like a light heavyweight. And, you know, that may have been overstating it somewhat, but it's not a million miles off. Did either of you see it by any chance?
Yeah, he did look heavy, but I think Selby's a guy that he needs motivation. He's one of those fighters, because he's so, I think, naturally gifted, very naturally gifted fighter. And you tend to see it in these sort of fighters that they rely so much on their natural ability that sometimes the other side of what they need to do tends to fade away a little bit, or they don't keep their eye on it. For me, Selby's a hard sell, I think, for the casual armchair fan, because he's not very, you know, he hasn't got a big personality. He's not one for really shouting people out, but he's just a really good fighter, a very, very good fighter, really good to watch. And he needs a dance partner to make those big fights, to make that money. And Josh Warrington is that perfect, you know, hometown lad that will bring the gates, will bring the public in, will capture some more attention. And again, it comes to beef again, that just trying to build that fight, but at least, he was kind of right, because he did look big, but I don't see that as a problem, and he didn't look like Selby really saw it as a problem.
Yeah. I think as Selby gets older, and he's not getting any younger, none of us are, that weight and making that weight, he's always been big at the weight. He's always looked like he struggled to make it. That's going to be a bigger factor, and hope it doesn't start to impinge on his performances. What do you make about Elland Road? Do you reckon they'll sell that out for a fight like this, Joe?
I think so, because of the time of the year. So hopefully the weather will be a little bit better. Josh Warrington he's just that hometown kid. He's like a Ricky Hatton, isn't he, of Leeds? He's loved by the football crowd, which is what will bring the attendance up. So I think it's a good statement of intent from Frank Warren. I think it's something that he's wanting to do. He's seen what's happened with Matchroom and Joshua filling these stadiums, and he's done it before years ago. He's done football ground fights, so it's not exactly new to him, but it's something that he needed to do with this new contract with BT, and really to push Box Nation and BT boxing forward. So I don't think that it's going to be like a Sheffield United, like a Kell Brook crowd at Sheffield United, isn't it? Really, that sort of level of attendance, I would imagine.
Yeah. And what do you reckon as to the result? I've always been pretty adamant that it's easy work for Selby.
Yeah, completely. It is definitely easy work for Selby. Selby's a class act, but as I said, he's the sort of fighter that needs a challenge. He needs something big in front of him. Otherwise, he'll coast through. Very much like a Billy Joe Saunders, for instance. He needs that challenge to make him get on point and keep switched on, because like Billy Joe Saunders, he's got so much natural ability and he can make even at say 75%, he can make a half decent fighter look average. He's that skilled. So and I think he sees. I think there's a definite plan, isn't there, for either of these fighters, whoever wins this. They know where they're going. They know what riches lie ahead, what big fights lie ahead. So, yeah, I think it's a good fight for both of them, and it's a good fight for us as well. But I do think Selby will come out quite a dominant winner. I think Warrington's very limited. I think a lot of fighters get as far as they do purely because they're big ticket sellers. So they'll get pushed a little bit more, and they'll get in the fights that are more highlighted and get more kudos because of the fans that they bring with them, which Selby might not necessarily do, but Warrington definitely does. So yeah, but when it comes to skill-wise levels, yeah, Selby's well above.
Definitely. I'm with you there, mate. Paul, have you got anything to add on Selby Warrington?
Not really, to be honest. I pretty much agree with everything Jay said. Not really that much, and I didn't see the press conference either. I must confess, so not really.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Ohara Davis signs with Frank Warren. Paul, possibly inevitable given recent stories. A good move for both. I think it's a real big win for Frank's stable.
Yeah, I do. I also think I'm kind of glad that Ohara Davis has had some sort of like good fortune, I guess you could say, after. I kind of felt quite strongly at the time, and I suppose most people have seen the interview now with him where he kind of explains himself on the whole tweet stuff. And I kind of said at this when it first broke, I thought he didn't know anything about Hillsborough. He wasn't alive when I was alive when Hillsborough happened. But that's because I'm an old fart. Like, he was a young kid. He didn't know anything about Hillsborough. Do you know what I mean? He was just talking about the whole Tommy Coyle fucking thing. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm just glad he's got a bit of good fortune come his way. And I don't really rate him as a fighter, to be completely honest. But he seems like a nice enough kid, so yeah, and it is a big good piece of business with Frank, I think.
It could be the comeback story of the year, to be honest with you. He could absolutely turn this around where it becomes, I'm not 100%, but the loved by the British public, you know, because he's kind of like a victim now. And if you notice, his tweets now are a lot more fan friendly and a lot more not as aggressive as they were.
He's become humble in the way.
And I think we've got to understand that he is a young kid, and I do honestly think he's been fucked over. Yeah. I'm not so sure that he didn't know about Hillsborough, because you've only got to pick up a newspaper or read something online to know about that. I'm not 100% sure, but I do think that he wasn't guided properly, and I think he's learned probably big lessons in this. And it's good for him that he can start afresh with a new promoter, and maybe Frank Warren has seen what's happened and will look after him. And signing with MTK will definitely be a good thing for him, because they will look after him and advise him hopefully a lot better than he was advised. But he could almost turn public opinion around with what's maybe not in Liverpool, but in the rest of the country. He could possibly turn that public opinion around and come out as this victim, you know, young kid from the streets that's just trying to make good.
I think so. I mean, look, I honestly don't think he knew about Hillsborough. I think these days, it's not so much that you just need to pick up a newspaper and they're talking about Hillsborough. It's kind of like doesn't get talking about that much anymore. And I think like he's never gonna be a favourite in Liverpool, you know. And I think that stems from other things more than this, to be completely honest. I think they already didn't like him. If you remember the Hey Bellew press conference where he was calling on minimum wage, the whole minimum wage comments and stuff like that. I think they already thought he was a bit of a dickhead. But I agree with you. I think it could come full circle, and British fans, I think all fans can be, but certainly in this country we're fickle. Like 1 minute, like, you know, you hate it, and then the next minute, like, it can just turn. It can turn on a sixpence, can't it? And I think it's entirely possible that he could end up, like you say, endearing himself a little bit more. And I kind of like to see that, because he seems like a nice kid. I don't think he's the brightest crayon in the box, but he does seem like a nice kid. So more power to him, and he's selling himself, like, so fair play.
Yeah, I agree. Jay, do you think he's got the potential to turn into like a Eubank Junior type figure? Could he be like a sort of heel type character who could be really well promoted and become a very, very big name?
I think a lot's got to be, sadly, but a lot's got to be put on his shoulders from this point now, from how he conducts himself in press conferences. You know, he has to, you know, he's got a lot of work to do to win favour. Whether he wants to is a different thing. He might still have the attitude, well, I don't care, I'm just in it for the money, like he was saying. But how much of that was him, and how much of it was, you know, Tibbs and Matchroom that were putting this into his head? I think unless he does something very spectacular in the ring by beating someone of genuine pedigree who's a top end fighter, you know, it's going to be very it will be very difficult for him, because he hasn't got that Eubank swagger. That Eubank, he's quite articulate. He's got his dad behind him, so there's a lot of history there. So it's a lot easier for someone like Chris Eubank Jr. Yeah. It's like it's very much like Billy. Again, I go back to Billy Joe Saunders all the time, because he's a great example. Because Billy Joe Saunders is very controversial, said some really silly things in the past, very controversial things. But all of a sudden, after that big Lemieux performance, he's almost become the darling of British boxing. And you can almost tell in the way he's talking and the way he's speaking now, whether that's that performance or the attention that he's had or the Ingle influence, that he's a little bit more considered in what he says. He's still a bit rough around the edges, but he's a little bit more considered and maybe a little bit more professional than he possibly was, say, 5 or 6 fights ago.
Yeah. No, I can see that. And I think his exposure to the public in such a big way will continue to build that. I actually think he's a very entertaining fighter. I appreciate he may not be the best fighter, and to an extent he was exposed, but I think he's a very entertaining fighter to watch with his style.
But he's not a bad fighter. Like, let's get this right. He's not a bad fighter, but you know, when he lost, he came up against someone exceptional, very, very, very talented. Paul, turn your mic off. It's ridiculous.
I've muted him.
Get it off phone, Shane.
This is Paul live at home.
He's got a new girlfriend, and now all of a sudden he's like flirting throughout the podcast.
Just worry if you hear plate smashing, then you know he's not going right. Get off that fucking podcast. Yeah, he's not a bad fighter, but he came up against a very exceptional fighter who really, who will go on to do great, super things. But remembering he took the fight again, was he advised to take that fight? Was he not? You know, did he really want the fight? Was it the right time for him? Was it the right opponent? Possibly the right time because of the amount of, fights he'd had and his opponent had had. But, was it a good decision? That's yet to be seen. He didn't, we don't know what's been happening behind the scenes now and what his training camps have been like and what his motivation's been like. So, I think now is his chance to really, cement something going forward and hopefully he'll be matched right and there'll be a good, solid path, to where he wants to be or where he needs to be.
Yep, yeah, spot on. It's a good opportunity for both, though, for both Ohara and Frank. And I, for one, am looking forward to seeing where it takes them. Paul, let me bring you back in and we'll move to predictions to next week if you're good to speak, mate. You are showing us on mute, Paul. Maybe we'll go to you first then, Jay.
Go to Jay first, mate, yeah.
All right, check, Paul.
Classic. That's nearly as good as Tom eating popcorn.
Indeed. Jay, so clearly two big fights this weekend. Jet actually giving Isaac Chamberlain a favourite's chance in that matchup. Where do you stand?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think I've said, like Jet has said, that a Coley's an accident waiting to happen. Chamberlain has fought the harder way up, if you see what I mean. He hasn't had that big matchroom build up, and been matched correctly to make a fighter look good. We know Okole's got power, but he hasn't had that opportunities. This is a big opportunity. It reminds me of very much. And they're fighting very early in their careers, so it's very similar to like a DeGale Grove sort of thing. This is a fight that could happen later. It's very similar to Dillian White getting the opportunity against Joshua, the main man at Sky Sports and Matchroom. Chamberlain, I think, has that more, that Camacho fight, and I think he has that. Only such a short amount of time, but has quite gained a lot of experience within his pro career, which I don't think Okolie has possibly gained that experience because he's been matched very nicely and, matched with people that he's going to get quick knockouts and it's going to bring in the public. And sometimes that could be a fighter's downfall. DeGale was very similar. DeGale was that golden boy, and then Groves come in and upset the apple cart, which is always a risk that can happen. They obviously believe Okole's far better than Chamberlain, but I would give him a better chance than people possibly are. And we are all swung by the media hype train that Sky bring and that Matchroom bring. So, we see Okole and many people from the outside who maybe not know as much or not seen Chamberlain before would say, Okole's just going to smash him in 2 rounds or whatever. But I think and Chamberlain has got so much to gain from this. If he pulls this off, it's such a big thing. So there's that extra determination and that extra focus possibly that he can bring to the ring and bring in his training camp.
Yeah. So in terms of how you see it breaking down, if you're giving Chamberlain a chance, do you think he will just be out boxing Okole? Is that how you see it going?
He has to. That's the only way he's going to win the fight. Let's get it right. He's not going to. I know he's going to knock him out. He's going to have to outbox him. And when I've seen Okole, who's the guy that he fought? I'm trying to.
Blaze. Is it Blaze Menduo?
Yeah, when he fought when he fought him, and that was when he was kind of out of boxed, wasn't he? A little bit, I think.
I think he probably won every round, but he was made to look a bit green and struggled.
I think that's the only way you're going to beat him. And a Coley, because, and again, it's this because there is genuine beef there. There's going to be a lot of emotion in there, and a Coley, there's a lot of expectation for a Coley just to knock this guy out. So then you've got to wonder if he's going to force it a little bit, and he's going to try and look for that knockout, and that could play definitely into Chamberlain's hands. But Chamberlain has got to stand off, and I think he's a better boxer, and has got to stand off and use the space and use his footwork and try and win it that way. And I think Chamberlain and his team hopefully are clever enough to realise that's how they're going to win the fight. But when you get in there, they're big crowd, big expectation, headlining. The emotions come into it, and it depends which fighter, will take these emotions. Because, as I said, we've seen with White and Joshua, even Joshua, the consummate professional up until then, the gold medalist, he lost his head in that as well. And they're young kids in a young pro fight, and to have such a big fight in such early on in their careers, it's such a big arena with so many people watching and so much hype around it. A lot of it's going to come down to who's got the mental stability to make it through and stick to a game plan and make that game plan work over the rounds.
Yeah, no, I'm very much with you there, Jay. Very much with you there. What about Gassiev versus Dorticos? How do you see that one going? The panel seem to be very much Team Gassiev at the minute.
I liked Dorticos before the last fight, and then he did a job. I'm a Dorticos fan. I think he's gone under the radar a little bit. I know Gassiev is a good fighter. He's quite young. Split decision with Lebedev. I think it's a tough fight for me, because I don't think we've seen enough of Dorticos, you know what I mean, to really know how good this guy is, because he's not an orthodox Cuban fighter. He's a bit risky. He likes to take risks. He likes to get involved a little bit too much, which Cuban fighters just tend not to do. And he can obviously bang. And that it was quite an impressive performance the last time out. But Gassiev is a very good fighter. So it's really tough for me, because I want to go Dorticos with this, just to think outside the box a little bit and go for it. If I was playing it safe, we're going to go for Gassiev. But Dorticos, I think he might be. Hoping he might be one of those fighters that has just gone under the radar a little bit, and we just don't know enough about him, and then he's going to kind of burst onto the scene. So I will pick Dorticos.
So you're thinking a weekend of double upset then?
Yeah. And I might get it completely wrong, and I know I'm sticking my neck out by saying Dorticos could win this, but I just think he is, again, a lot to gain for him, a lot to gain for him. So I'm thinking he might go out there and he might get knocked out, because he can be reckless. That's the problem. He can be reckless, but also he obviously carries a dig. So let's see really what he can do, and you never know. He might just do it.
Absolutely. Well, he's certainly got a puncher's chance, and potentially quite a bit more than that, depending on how you see the fight. But it's a fascinating matchup. And for me, whilst the bookmakers don't have these fights as even, I think when we talk about 50-50 fights in boxing, these are the two kind of fights we're talking about. So, yeah, I'm massively looking forward to this weekend. Paul, let me go to you again. Are you able to?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we're good. We're good.
I see. Finish telling you off, mate.
Hey.
Finish telling you off. You okay?
Oh no, it wasn't me being told off. Thankfully,
let me know if you want to. Let me know if you want to talk about it, man. It's okay.
I was going to say, Jay,
this weekend.
I think Jay seems to be trying to take on my role there as like sticking his neck out with things. It's like my when I picked the egg to beat Frankie Gavin.
You're still living off that one.
Yeah, he's trying to take over my role, which is cool. You can do that.
Yeah, but if we go for the same thing every time, it just gets boring. Then it's
yeah, that's true. That's true. Unfortunately, on this one, I think you're going to be a bit of egg on your face maybe on this one. I done a video on this today, the Chamberlain Okolie. I just think I've kind of been watching a bit of them. Like I don't understand the whole narrative of Chamberlain as the sort of having more experience and being slick. I don't really see him as that slick. I don't really see him as very good either. It's not to say Okolie's flawless, because he's clearly not. He falls in on his work. He gives up his height and reach regularly, and he's open. But I just think the size difference, for me, Chamberlain looks like a guy that could probably squeeze down to light heavyweight, whereas Okolie is a lump. What is he? 6'5". He's a big man. He's a big heavy, a big cruiserweight. That's what I was thinking earlier when I was saying Usyk might be the biggest cruiserweight. I mean, Okolie might be. He's fucking huge. And I just think he's going to have a little bit too much for Chamberlain. Chamberlain's got a load of heart, you know, that when he put his shoulder back in after the third round. But I mean, like, he hasn't fought many. I mean, that Camacho had about 4 losses going into that fight anyway. So, I mean, and for me, I thought Camacho won that fight, to be completely honest. I think, you know, so even before the shoulder thing, I thought Camacho was winning that fight. I think this would be quite a straightforward win for Lawrence Okolie, myself.
Okay, so you're going with Okolie and Gassiev, are you?
Yeah, I've also been watching Dorticos. I mean, Dorticos he's not great. He's not great. He's got power, but he smothers his own work a hell of a lot. I kind of like, I had this narrative of him being this like real quick, sort of like, maybe I've been watching the wrong fights. I don't know. Based on 3 or 4 fights I've watched of him this week, I think Gassiev's much better fighter. And so, yeah, I think Gassiev will win that. I think it'll be Gassiev Usyk in the final.
Interesting stuff. Okay. Yeah. I've already, for those watching, I've already got my prediction video up on the channel for the British Beef card, Okolie versus Chamberlain. It is up on the channel if you want to check it out. But in brief, I've gone Lawrence Okolie. Prediction video on Dorticos Gassiev tomorrow. It is a tight fight. Could see cases either way. I'm going Gassiev on it. I'm siding with Paul and Tom, and going against Jay. So Jay, your neck is very much out there, mate. You're going to be hero or zero next week, I think.
Did Irish pick Gassiev and Okolie as well?
Irish picked Gassiev and kind of sat on the fence for the British Beef fight. Jet picked Gassiev and Chamberlain, I think.
Oh, he did his usual Irish then of picking every possible outcome as possible his possible pick.
Well, in the lead up to the fight, Irish was talking a lot about how he was picking Chamberlain to win and how he thought Chamberlain was, going to school Okolie. And I said to him tonight, I assume you're picking Chamberlain, are you? And he admitted that he'd actually never seen Chamberlain fight.
Fucking hell. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, how much confidence he has in his prediction, I don't know.
I don't know how much confidence you can have when you're picking a guy that you've never seen fight, but that's just me. I prefer to watch them before I make up my mind. Bit out there, like, as a way to do things, I guess. But, you know, there you go.
Indeed. Yeah. He says he's seen him spar, which, by Irish's own admission, is like the ultimate boxing hipster thing to do. You know, don't watch him fight, but watch him spar.
Okay, cool.
There you go. Guys, any more for any more?
Does anybody else think Chamberlain is like super small for a cruiserweight?
The thing about Chamberlain is he does weigh in at 14.5 stone, and he looks like pretty lean at the weight. You know, he doesn't look like he's carrying a lot of fat on him. So I agree, he's got a smaller frame, but you don't look at Chamberlain and think there's another 2 stone that could just easily come off there. You know, he looks pretty lean at the weight already for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. How tall is he? Is he 6'1"? I mean, I look at him and he looks like, I don't know, Kovalev? Maybe not much bigger than Kovalev?
6'2".
6'2", okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, it's. I think when you're watching videos of guys and then standing next to bigger guys a lot, it can be a bit deceptive, can't it?
I met Chamberlain with Frank Buglioni, and I wouldn't say there was the biggest size difference between the two of them.
Okay. But what are you, 6'5"?
6'4".
6'4".
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's yeah, I mean, but the thing is there is a substantial size disadvantage. I mean, if you look at photos with a Coley and Joshua, you know, they look like there's less between them. You know, I bet when a Coley stops cutting to cruiserweight, I wouldn't be surprised if instantly, you know, he's weighing in at 16 stone. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the rumours about Coley and AJ and the sparring stuff, I mean, that just straight away tells you that, you know, I mean, it's very, very obvious when you watch a Coley hit anybody. I mean, you've only got to look at that. They've got one common opponent. What's the guy's name? Russell Henshaw.
Yeah.
Russell Henshaw took Chamberlain rounds. I think he might have TKO'd him in the 6th or 7th or something. But I mean, if you look at that fight, it was Henshaw's very, very basic, incredibly basic. And you know, like Chamberlain seemed to struggle, and I don't know if there were circumstances around why that was or what I don't know. But certainly when a Coley fought Henshaw, literally I think he dropped him with a body shot quite quickly. And literally every time a Coley was connecting with him, Henshaw was just visibly sort of like disintegrating before your eyes. You can really sort of like, I think that was a really big indicator of the sort of disparity in power between Chamberlain and Coley. If you look at those fights,
there is a disparity. The only thing I'll say in Chamberlain's defense is I remember that Henshaw fight, and if I'm not mistaken, Henshaw was unbeaten at the time he fought Chamberlain. And Henshaw was actually someone who had a little bit of a following himself as someone to follow. So I do think there's a big difference dynamic there. You know, he went in against Chamberlain as an undefeated fighter against the guy who was just starting his pro career. And it was almost billed as a 50-50, that fight. You know, when he stepped up to fight Lawrence Sokoli, you know, he'd got several losses on his record. He'd been knocked out a couple of times. You know, I think that is different, but nevertheless, I would agree with you that the difference in power is night and day between these two.
Yeah, I mean, Chamberlain isn't a puncher anyway, is he? That's obvious anyway. So, yeah, but I think it'll probably be competitive. But I do, I mean, because Chamberlain does seem like a tough lad, but then again, tough against guys like Eddie Camacho. I very much doubt he'll ever been hit anything like as hard as he's going to get hit by a Coley. Do you know what I mean? Because he didn't have somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe he had any amateur experience at all, Chamberlain, did he? I think he came into the gym, and I know he's from Brixton, he come in straight off the street and stuff, so I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's correct.
I don't know about his amateur pedigree, but yeah, he must have gone pro very, very early. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't think he had any amateur pedigree, to be honest. So, I mean, he's certainly, you know, because I've seen a few people sort of like say that he has talking about him having the edge in experience and whatnot as well, and I don't see that. I see it the other way around, if anything.
I heard you say that in your video, yeah. Or I was one of the people saying edge and experience, and what I kind of meant by that, I guess, was the Camacho fight. You know, Chamberlain had went 10 rounds in a war. He battled through adversity. He'd been hit. He'd been hurt. And I kind of meant that, I guess, by experience. I appreciate that Okoye's kind of, you know, amateur pedigree and Olympic pedigree represents quite a substantial background.
Yeah, it's a bit more experience. And I don't think it wasn't you, somebody else I won't mention. Somebody was talking about there being vast differences in experience, and that Chamberlain's experience was going to be the difference and whatnot. And I don't agree with that. But you do make a good point. He has been in a war, and Okoye so far hasn't. Okoye hasn't really been tested. I think Okoye is. I agree with Usyk. I think he is an accident waiting to happen. Whether the person that is going to be able to capitalize on that and expose that is Usyk Chamberlain. I just don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah, I think Okoye could be countered by someone with huge knockout power who could just make him miss, catch him, and knock him out. And I don't know if Chamberlain's got that one punch hitting power. I also think Okoye could be outmaneuvered in the way that like a Billy Joe Saunders or a Tyson Fury would try and fight. And whilst Chamberlain is viewed as this slick, skilled, technical guy, which he is to an extent, I just don't believe he's got the footwork and the lateral movement to fight that style.
No, I don't. I don't really understand the slick tag either. I don't really see him as overly slick. I think
he's stylish, isn't he?
He's kind of stylish, yeah. But when I think of somebody slick, I think of, like a Floyd type character, just slipping punches and whatnot. And he just doesn't seem like that for me. But we'll see. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
it's happened.
I'm with you. It's happened to all of us. Jay, any more your direction, mate?
Just Ted Cheeseman, Carson Jones, which would be quite interesting to see how where Ted Cheeseman's at, really, and quite a decent fight for him, really. And depending on how Carson Jones comes in, what sort of shape he comes in, what sort of motivation he's got to win that fight, because we've seen two different sides to Carson Jones, so yeah, that'll be interesting. And I think Ted Cheeseman is a good prospect, and I think he's someone who is one of the better fighters coming through Matchroom. So it'll be quite interesting to see. And I think if he beats him, it's quite a big statement, really.
It really is. It would put him in the mix. Yeah, Carson Jones, decent fighter. He's caused one or two upsets coming over in the past, and I think this is a clear fight where it will tell us, exactly where he's at.
Yeah, I think Carson Jones is like a European fighter, isn't he? Really, like a mid-European fighter. So it's kind of like for me. So, but he's mixed it with some half decent people. So I think Carson Jones, he's almost like a gatekeeper now, isn't he?
He's like a very high-level gatekeeper, I guess. Yeah, but he's kind of like. Do you remember that sort of Tony Thompson type figure in the heavyweight division? I guess he's almost in that sort of role.
Yeah, he's a name that you can trot out, and that's why I said it depends on depends on Carson Jones' mindset and what he's coming over for. Is he coming over just for a bit of dough, or is he coming over to upset the party? Which he has done which he nearly did with Kell Brook in the past. But as I said, only time will tell. But it's a fight I'm quite interested to watch.
Yeah. Lenny Henry's put in the chat. I presume it's not the real Lenny Henry. He's put, imagine growing up with a name like Cheeseman, Ted Cheeseman. You would really have to learn how to fight. I
gotta give a bit of a shout out as well to someone in the chat. I believe his name's Phil Dickinson. Earlier he put in the chat, all of these cheese jokes are just getting really grating, which I rather appreciated. To shout out.
He's just put in the chat now. It would be mental if Ted Cheeseman lost. He's put, it's easy to pick holes in Cheeseman. So fair play to Philip. You're keeping us entertained, mate.
I love stupid jokes like that. It's just like that's the kind of thing that will make I like think of that in an hour's time and I'll start laughing again uncontrollably. So yeah, cheers for that, mate.
There we go. Right, I'll wrap it up in that case. few quick thank yous. Thank you to Jet and to Irish Tom for making cameo appearances despite their bouts of ill health. Thank you to Paul for being so understanding about me not including him on the podcast invite, and for staying the course and seeing it out with us. Thank you to Jay for being here from start to finish, and can see a lot of the names in the chat who've literally been there since about 8 o'clock and have stayed the course with us. So I hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. I've enjoyed doing it. I think we've had some interesting discussions, some good topics, and really, really, really good week of boxing ahead. Some great fights this weekend, which I'm very, very much looking forward to. Please continue to hit the thumbs up button, even if you do it now or if you do it after the video has been uploaded to the channel. That will help get this a few more viewers jumping on, and would make a difference. So please continue to do that. Please continue to hit subscribe. We've had another 2 subscribers as we've been live, so as always, massively appreciate that. And we'll be back next Wednesday at 8:30, hopefully to be discussing another great World Boxing Super Series fight and to be discussing the result of British Beef. Who knows? We may even do an early look ahead to Groves Eubank. We'll have to see. Anyway, thanks very much, guys.
Before you go, can I just quickly just say, like, I know a few people subscribed based on your recommendation last week, and I appreciate that. The channel's kind of gone live really today with the first video being uploaded. Now that I've figured out what I'm actually going to do with regards editing it and stuff, and how I'm going to get them uploaded, they'll be coming thick and fast. So if you guys feel like it, just give us a subscribe, man. It's abstract boxing and stuff.
Definite conflict of interest there.
Oh, shut up, you.
Have a word, gossip.
Pipe down.
Have a word.
Pipe down, Brommy.
It's
Go on.
invited. Oh, I want some sort of money for this.
You know what? I'm going to take his weekly wage and deduct advertising costs. I'm kidding. I've put out the link to Paul's stuff on my Facebook and on my Twitter. So if you follow me on either of those, check them out. If you don't, it's Abstract with a Z. So check out his channel. Paul, maybe what you should do, mate, is after this is uploaded, why don't you put a link to your channel in the comments, and I'll pin it as the top comment or something like that. So if anyone's struggling with a link, they could just look down in the comment section and it will be there or something.
Yeah, wicked. Nice one. Cheers, guys.
But yeah, keep doing what you're doing, and we'll see if we can spring 1 or 2 subscribers your way. But yeah, cheers, guys. Thanks very much as always, and we'll be back next week.
Cheers, guys.
Flip slide.